Hello everyone, so today's been quite the day with World of Warcraft, and by the time this video is up, my video covering a overview of what we found out will be on the channel, so check that out if you want to brush up on stuff. But now I'm just going to give my impressions of everything and sort of tie it all together. First of all, overall impression is that conceptually, I think this is it could be very, very fun. Actually, I really like the idea of the Broken Isles. Looking at all the zones and all of that stuff, it seems like there's a good bit of variation and fun, which is absolutely a very nice thing to see. However, of course, we need to take everything with a grain of salt because Warlords of Draenor looked amazing back at BlizzCon 2013, and look how that turned out. What I would say, though, is that, well, Warlords of Draenor had so little content because everything was like, they basically didn't do that much work on after it launched, and we know for like ages that loads of people were working on this expansion earlier than normal. Apparently there were some people saying that most of the first version of this was feature complete in February, so I'd say that there is less of a chance that we will have snipped features this time around than with Warlords, and absolutely that's something that I think we definitely want to hear about. But anyway, let's get started with this video and talk about the setting and the premise. So basically, Gul'dan is actually sent back to Azeroth to basically let the Legion in via the tomb of Sargeras, which is, all this lore is weird. Well, first of all, it seems like Gul'dan got shot into the place where Illidan was, the Vault of the Wardens. Now, the question here is, what the hell's Illidan doing? Is he our friend? Is he our enemy? We don't really know. They didn't explain a great deal of the lore here. It's all kind of hanging up in the air. So maybe we'll find out about that on the Q&A on Sunday, but, well, it could go either way, honestly. But still, Gul'dan is there. That's good. I think he's a good villain. Troy Baker is a great voice actor, so it's nice to have him. And Illidan is sort of a fan favorite. And he didn't really, he was cool in Burning Crusade, but he wasn't really done justice in Burning Crusade in terms of how good he is as a character. So hopefully we will see some stuff with him pop up. Now, Archimonde, pretty dumb guy. Basically, all that Warlords of Draenor stuff is pointless. Why Archimonde had to go and get himself killed, I don't really know. Why does he care about that world so much when apparently he already knows that our world exists and it's supposed to have all these special, powerful things? So, yeah, Warlords of Draenor, how that works into the lore and all that stuff, it's this bizarre, transitional bridge thingy that I don't think really makes that much sense. They could have easily done this, Illidan comes back and some Legion stuff happens right after Mists of Pandaria, and, sometimes it just does feel like they popped in Warlords of Draenor because they wanted to get people sort of familiar with those characters because the movie was going to be a thing, which is why that expansion just popped up out of nowhere and why there was that big delay. That makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so the Legion arrives on the planet, they tear shit up, there's a few other threats in the Broken Isles, which is definitely a good thing, but apparently this is the biggest Legion invasion that we've ever had, bigger than the War of the Ancients and all that stuff. Whether we will actually feel that in the game, it's really hard to say. I think the best way to make that really feel alive is to have a massive pre-expansion event where zones are being attacked, where capital cities are being overrun with demons. Stuff like that would be extremely, extremely cool. And it almost seems like they suggest stuff will happen to other zones, and if that is the case, then I would really, really, really like that. But yeah, that's really what goes on with the start of this expansion, and apparently our whole sort of goal is to fight them back using these Titan artifacts called the Pillars of Creation, which will close up the portal, and I think their portal is in the Tomb of Sargeras. And speaking of the Tomb of Sargeras, we have that and the Broken Shore, which is basically our starter zone for this expansion, just that it's actually going to be coming out before the expansion launches. So it's some giant big event zone thing where things happen, there's lots of lore, and that's really all we know. Although apparently we're going to be very shocked and surprised at the end. And because of that and a few other hints, like for an example, people being able to use the Doomhammer or Tyrion's weapon, it seems like major heroes are going to die, and they pretty much spoil the death of Frail and Tyrion if they do happen. It definitely seems quite likely, because I doubt the two of them are just going to be like, yeah, you know what, you take this weapon, it'll be fine. Yeah, bit weird, but maybe it could be good, maybe that could propel some pretty cool stuff. Certainly, it could be a very fun zone. They did say they're going to be doing things differently to the initial, intro thing of Warlords, which is definitely a good idea. I would hope this is, I suppose, just a little bit less linear and more of an actual zone, perhaps. Now, if it is going to be coming out before the expansion, that might mean that it's just a quick little linear thing, but again, it's really hard to say at this point. As for the Broken Isles in general, though, I really like the look of things. So you've got lots of different zones, which, well, actually, no, you don't have that many different zones, which is one of my biggest problems. You have a few zones, but they all look very different. Stormheim is really, really something that's up my alley. It just seems like rustic and really nice. Same with the other one, I think it's called High Mountain as well. There's a lot of elven stuff, and overall it seems like, despite the fact that this is a Burning Legion expansion, there will be like maybe one zone that's super Burning Legion-ish, and the rest will be more of like the established Broken Isles zone and Broken Isles aesthetic, which is definitely a good thing because we've had a lot of green and a lot of orcs and a lot of spikes. Ian Hazakostas directly said, yeah, so I know you all like have had loads of green orc spiky things. We're not going to have that. Yeah, definitely glad to see that. So overall, I like the idea of the Broken Isles. However, there's a big problem. Yes, this is weird. So in the little thing that they like showed off, the map in their presentation, there was, I think it was like 7 zones. Yeah, I think it was 7. But then the one on their website shows 6 zones, with the Broken Shore being included on both, and the Broken Shore probably is going to be a thing you get done pretty quickly. So we either have 5 or 6 zones in this expansion, which is basically the same as Warlords of Draenor. I know Frostfire and Shadowmoon were like, split by faction, but still, that, if it is the case, really disappoints me. Yeah, these zones could be big, yeah, they could have a lot of variation within them, but I think that when you're going through these areas and continents again on alts, even having maybe 3 other zones that can give some choice, like what, basically what happened with Northrend, gives you a lot more replayability. I've heard a lot of feedback with the Warlords questing saying, great first time through, and maybe the second, but damn, by the 5th, or, by the 3rd, there's no variation to spice it up whatsoever. And I really worry that this expansion will sort of have the same thing happen to it, which is it's a bit of a worry. So let's move on to, artifacts. Now, the artifact weapon system is, on face value, really, 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 really cool. I do have a big worry about it, though, but first of all, let's cover the good stuff. So, they're pretty cool looking. That's a good thing. There is lots of customization as well, and they've basically put in the old talent system into these artifact weapons, which should make a lot of people quite happy because those talents are definitely something that's missed. Okay, there's not as many, they are probably a bit more simplified, but still, it's nice to have that. And of course, they're really customizable, and I like the way that you're going to be earning your customization options by doing like loads of different varied things. As always, and as I've been saying for ages, having more just customization for your individual character that's not tied directly to your item level is a really, really, really good thing, and it can drive gameplay that people do just because they want to look cool, and I think that's a very important driver that maybe Warlords missed in some cases. So the artifact system seems like it's doing really well in that regard, and I like how you can get the really distinct versions of each weapon. I think some of that art just really does look quite fantastic. Definitely a very, very, very nice thing to see. Oh, and with there being one unique one for each spec, I think that's definitely very good. It will give you quite a lot of stuff to do because every single spec on your character will have a different heirloom, or not heirloom, not relic, crap, I've forgotten the name. Artifact, that's it. Artifact weapon. But there is a slight catch. How powerful are these going to be? Because it seems like these are essentially a complete secondary progression system once you perhaps hit max level for this expansion. What this means is that, well, what's the point of any other weapons existing throughout the expansion at all? They're not going to be that needed because they probably won't be useful. These are the weapons that have all those abilities, all those perks, and that you're really pouring your heart and soul into when it comes to unlocking new customizations for. So, yeah, that's a little bit strange. It means that throughout Legion, you might not actually be replacing your weapon much. You'll just be upgrading the one that you currently have. Now, that is a bit of a change in pace, but it seems weird not having weapons to upgrade from, or getting new weapons from tier to tier. Another weird thing is, how do you deal with the power creep going into the next expansion? Surely we won't just be keeping the same weapon, or anything like that. That wouldn't, well, I suppose it would make sense. You just, progress your Ashbringer more in the expansion after Legion, but still, overall, that side of things has me a little bit concerned. But what I very much do like is that it is a form of cosmetic progression that people can chip away at in their spare time that isn't really necessarily going to be 100% raid related, so that's certainly a good thing. And the gameplay customization that comes from these is really nice. Lots of people miss that talent system, so having a bit of a sort of, nod back to it is definitely a nice thing. Oh, and also I should clarify, they said that we will be getting these weapons from people who have either died, or fallen, or have lost hope, or despaired. So perhaps maybe Tyrion won't die, maybe he'll just despair in the light and be like, oh fine, you take the weapon, I'm just going to go back and live in my hut. I don't know, but hey, if Tyrion is there, it means Bernard Cromwell is going to be back in the game, or Bernard Hill even. I don't know who the hell that other guy is, but that would be great, because he's fucking brilliant. I love the character of Tyrion, so that'll be cool. Now then, moving on to class orders. What the balls is up with class orders? Well, I don't really know what the hell's up with class orders. We probably need to find out more about them. So basically, you end up being the alpha warrior, the alpha, hunter, whatever, of the whole, of the world. You unite all the other hunters, warriors, whatever, underneath one place. You get your own unique, hall thingy, which is basically your base for all of your class people. What I love is that these are shared. I think that absolutely is a very, 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 very good thing, because garrisons were isolated, and they sort of nodded to that being a very big difference. However, how customizable will they be? We don't really know yet, and I definitely hope that they do have some degree of customization. Now, how do you play into having lots of visual customization and them being a sort of shared world place? Well, I don't know if you do. So that's going to be a little bit strange, honestly. But once again, we will just have to wait and see how it pans out, because we do not know what it's going to be like. There's also the champion system that comes with your class order, and that champion system it's basically followers again, but you have a lot less in terms of followers. I think the word they used was, it's kind of like the Knights of the Round Table, and instead of the followers doing content for you, they seem to unlock content for you. So you send a follower to a place, and then they find a cave, and then you're like, oh shit, we better go to the cave. It seems like something similar to that idea that I had ages ago, where I forget what video it was in, but anyway, where you would basically send a follower off, and they would complete a mission which would give you a scenario that you could do with your followers. It seems like something like that will happen. Now, if that is the case, then I can see this system being good. If it's the case that those are very rare missions, and most of the missions are the same as the Warlords ones, then I am not at all interested. We'll just have to wait and see. They could do these champions in a way that absolutely sucks, or they could do it in a way that is way better than the follower system, and that actually drives gameplay. From what he's saying, it seems like they really want the version that drives gameplay, so that's certainly something that counts in their favor. Definitely glad to hear that. Yeah, again, we'll just have to see. In terms of the specific ones, I do like where they can be. So the shamans have got one in the Maelstrom, it says here. The paladins are under Light's Hope. The warlocks get a legion, world to go to for their place. So that stuff is really, really, really nice. And also being able to chill out with other hunters and other warlocks in a sort of Archerous way, that's definitely a nice thing. I just hope that they don't put too much in the way of utility inside these, because we are going to have Dalaran as a shared city. And actually, let's just talk about Dalaran. I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but I am so happy that we are getting a neutral city. I had really hoped that Warlords would have... I suppose originally it would have been nice if Shatrath, we liberated it, and then it was a neutral city. That didn't happen. Of course, we then ended up basically getting no cities of note. Mop didn't have a city. Cataclysm, I suppose, obviously didn't really have cities. The last one, again, was actually Wrath of the Lich King with Dalaran, so basically we're getting Dalaran again. That's definitely nice. I've got to wonder whether they're going to revamp it, because when you go back to Dalaran, as much as I love the art style of the place, well, it's a little bit, not worse for wear, but it was old. It was built in 2007 and 8, probably when that stuff was in development, so it's not really that high resolution and stuff like that. So they'll probably have to do some sort of revamp of Dalaran. Maybe they'll fix up some issues. But if it is similar to Dalaran in terms of what it has, then I'm going to be very happy, because Dalaran had that profession area, which was really cool, and a whole bunch of stuff like that, which was great, and it was really nice and thematic. That would definitely be nice. Also, I wonder if the Sun Reaver and Silver Covenant thing will happen again, because they were a decently large part of the old Dalaran, and how that played in. Still, I'm so happy to see Dalaran, and if it is going to be flying over there for a story reason, then I've got to wonder what they're going to do with it. There's I don't know, there must be something really nice that could happen. In fact, I think there was originally a plan for Dalaran to fly over to Orgrimmar, during the Siege of Orgrimmar, because obviously Jaina wasn't very happy with the things that Garrosh did, but they ended up scrapping it because there'd be too much going on and just development time and stuff like that. So there's Dalaran. Of course, Khadgar is leading the Kirin Tor now. What does that mean for Jaina? Well, apparently she's very angry at something, which suggests she's, I suppose, left and is now on some sort of mission to get revenge against whatever she's angry about. Of course, she has many things to be angry about, so there's that going on with her, which is definitely pretty good. Let's move on to, the Demon Hunters. What is up with Demon Hunters? Well, I'm really happy to see these guys. I remember way back in Warlords of Draenor, in the very initial period before we actually had the announcement, but everything was leaked, I did a bunch of videos speculating about all the different things we could get, and one of them was Demon Hunters, and I really like the idea of Demon Hunters, and we've got them, and yeah, they seem really cool. So first of all, from a visual perspective, I really love their art. I just think they look fantastic, and what I really like is there's so much color and vibrancy with them, and that's definitely something that's nice. It's not boring and grey or anything like that. It's really nice, so I'm totally digging them, and I've got to imagine that whenever the Demon Hunters, do come out, that everyone is just going to be rolling with them, and we'll have loads of Demon Hunters all over the place, like with what it was with the Death Knights. Also, we're getting a big, starting experience with the Demon Hunters, which seems bloody cool. So essentially, your lore behind it is, before we killed Illidan, he sent a whole bunch of, his best Demon Hunters all the way back through some portal to the original planet that, Sagaris made when he was a good Titan. And then as soon as he became, all evil and, sad, he basically blew the shit out of that planet, spawned the Legion, and, crazy stuff ensued. We get to go back there, we see, the destroyed planet and all that stuff, which is, it's just going to be great. So your lore with them is that basically your starting zone is that mission, that suicide mission that Illidan sent you on, and it seems like you then skip 10 years ahead whenever you're basically, I suppose, unthawed in the, the vault of the, the vault of the Wardens, and then you pop out because they're like, yeah, we need to kill demons, you're a demon hunter, help us kill demons. Certainly a good thing, great lore. Now, in terms of the actual gameplay, basically, you generate, I think it's called Demonic Fury or something, and you spend it, whatever, that's fine. But what really appeals to me is the mobility of these guys. It seems really fun, and it actually reminds me of a video I did a year and a half ago about the rogue move, I think it's called Cloak and Dagger, or whatever it is, the one which basically allows you to use ambush in stealth to teleport to a targeted enemy. And that felt really powerful when you used it in the game. And similarly with the monk doing your flying jade kick thingy, and is zooming over to an enemy and engaging in combat, that felt great as well. And it seems like they're really going to be doubling down on that feel with this class, and that seems really cool. In terms of what we saw though, there's throwing a glaive, there's an eye beam, there's loads of rushing around the place, loads of stuns, and of course you can double jump. I don't know how that's going to be in terms of balance. I can imagine it being strange, but certainly double jumping is a good bit of unique class feel that only they will have. But still, I do find myself thinking about the layouts of a few BGs, and just some instances where maybe that double jump would come in extremely handy. Again, hard to say. We'll have to see. Maybe that won't even be active in the super competitive stuff, because it might actually be too powerful. It could allow for dukes that are too strong. We don't know if you can maybe change direction in midair or anything like that. Another thing is you can metamorphosize into your demon form, which it just looks amazing. I'm really happy with the artwork behind those forms. And of course, it's also worth mentioning there are two specs, Havoc and Vengeance, with Havoc being a DPS spec and Vengeance being the tanking spec. I'm really glad that they decided to not just do a second spec that's DPS for the sake of it. I doubt they would do two tank specs. We suffer from that problem as hunters because we've just we're 3 damage specs, and it's not like you can be a fire mage or frost mage. No, you're a hunter with a bow. It's not like, oh, I'm a fire hunter who shoots fire arrows. I'm a frost hunter with frost arrows. We suffer from that problem with class diversity, and I'll get onto hunters in a second, actually. So seeing them really do that ballsy thing is great with the demon hunters, and I've got to wonder if some other classes will have big revamps to any specs as well. Now, actually, I may as well just talk about the hunter. When they were talking about the hunter, the survival hunter relic weapon, I keep on saying relic. In fact, in my original video, my intro slate for the for those ancient weapon thingies was it said relic, which was incorrect. But those weapons anyway. The hunter one is a spear. Now it could be a throwing javelin, obviously, but you don't have them in the game. Spears are generally a melee thing, so Raptor Strike might be coming back. Holy shit. I've long wanted SV to be a melee spec, so that would be so very cool. A part of me actually thought they were going to do new races instead of new classes, because I think they still have a lot of work to do with the post-squish of the, the Warlords of Draenor ability prune, because I think a lot of that was very, fraught with peril in terms of what it did to class feel and class diversity across the board. But anyway, it seems like there's some really good stuff going on with the Demon Hunters. Again, I like that they, pop up to a very high level instantly because they are a hero class. I think that makes sense. And I suppose it's strange. Them being a hero class like that, it's almost like getting a new bit of content, because you get your big new sort of slice of crazy zone with we can only imagine loads of big events and set pieces, and one of those things like the DK zone that they really put all their heart and soul into. With the monk, it was just we do the Wandering Isle, and then we do everything all over again, and yay, now we're max level. Well, with this, it's like a little side thing that's a fun little, present in a way. It's fuck yeah, I can now be a demon hunter, yay! Go off and do that. It's not like you feel like you've got to grind up loads of stuff. That's definitely cool. However, we do not know what level the demon hunters pop out at, which is something that will be, I think, important to know, somewhat. But again, we can't really speculate that much now. I assume we will, if they pop us out at Warlords, that would feel strange. If they pop us out at Pandaria, that would feel even more strange. So what makes the most sense to me is popping us out being ready for this expansion, and maybe it could be that the expansion, actually no, I think the expansion does come with a free level 100 boost. Yeah, actually it says that on the website. So yeah, that's going on. Anyway, Demon Hunters, fucking brilliant. I love them, yay. Let's cover dungeons. Yes, now, Ian Hazacosta said some very good things. Thank you, Ian. This was great to hear. He said, we have done a disservice to dungeons. He said they want them to be, first of all, they're going to do more of them, and they want them to be more relevant for longer and actually matter, because they are such a key, important part of the MMO experience. So that was just great to hear, because he was fully owning up to the fact that they fucking shit the bed when it comes to dungeons in the more recent expansions. Definitely great. However, in terms of the dungeons we saw, there were, let's see, how many were there? 9. Yes, there was 9. So in terms of the ones they showed us, I'll just go through some of these. First of all, we've got the Halls of Valor. It's basically Valhalla. Now, I've recently been watching Vikings, and then I went and I played Mount & Blade, the reforged version, or, the re-release of their Viking expansion, which I've been having so much fun in, and now Halls of Valor happens. Confirmation bias tells me that Viking things are just popping up everywhere in my life, and it's great because I love the Vikings. Also, the Vrykul and the Valkyr are back. That's really great. They were one of my favorite parts of Wrath of the Lich King. Definitely nice to see. And those big dungeons that are up in the clouds, I think look extremely impressive. I mean, remember the Throne of the Four Winds style stuff in Kata? That was really nice. Next, we've got Black Rook Hold, which seems to be pretty cool. It's like this giant fortress carved out of a mountain, which is pretty badass. I think we're going to see some Legion stuff in there. That'll be nice. Vault of the Wardens, that's where the Demon Hunter prison was, and apparently that's where we begin our hunt for Illidan, which would suggest Illidan is a villain, but again, who knows what will happen when we find him. We've got the Eye of Ashara, which I don't really know, I forget what it is, but yeah, wink wink, nudge nudge, lol. Darkheart Thicket, Neltharion's Lair. That's the lair, of course, of Deathwing. And this is from way back when he wasn't Deathwing, when he was just chilling out, really down in the earth, being all yeah, protect the world and earth and soil. Fuck yeah, soil. So that's what he was like. That'll be really nice to see, actually. We could see some really cool stuff there. And if it is his lair, maybe it's got some sort of connection to the world. The Titans, who are the people who made the Titan Pillars, which are the Pillars of Creation, which are what we sort of deal with in this expansion, trying to use them to stop the Legion invasion. They're the same people who gave him all of his Earth Warden powers. So there's probably going to be some sort of Titan-related stuff going on there, which is great. Then there's Helheim. This should be very cool. Basically, it's a ghost ship of the spirits of damned Vrykul who have not been honorable and not earned Valhalla, essentially. and you go on this ghost ship. Apparently it's a bit like Grimrail, so it sort of takes you on a journey on a moving thing, and that's really the dungeon. That seems to be extremely cool. And there's also Suramar City, which is probably similar to the Suramar Palace raid. Maybe that'll give us a bit of an intro into there. Also, Violet Hold is there, and apparently there's some secrets of Dalaran which we're going to find out via this Violet Hold dungeon. Overall, really happy with the dungeon content. However, that is 9 dungeons. Warlords of Draenor had 8 dungeons, including the Uber's revamp, which no one really gave a shit about. I mean, 9 is 1 more. I think we're looking for more than 1 more. We're looking for maybe 4 more. You know, maybe getting 12 dungeons, 13 dungeons, like Kata. Or not Kata, like Wrath of the Lich King. And I've also noticed that none of these dungeons have wings. Now, I think a few of these could be wings, like Valhalla. That sounds like something that could be wings. It's fucking, or not Valhalla, the Halls of Valor. Yeah, I would like some wings dungeons in there, just to bulk it up and give us more encounters. Though he did talk about his commitment to more dungeons, which maybe suggests dungeons and patches. I very much hope so. I remember I was on Final Boss by the time you see this, maybe last week, and one of Bay's gambits or questions was, do you think that every single raid tier should come out with new dungeons? In an ideal world, yes, and maybe that'll happen. Now, on the topic of raids, currently we know about 2 tier 19 raids, the Emerald Nightmare and Suramar Palace. So the Emerald Nightmare is, well, it's the Emerald Nightmare. It's the corrupted Emerald Dream stuff. We go in there, we fight Xavius, and we sort of end his shenanigans for good. I think that's going to be really cool, and it's a very major, lore significant thing. Plus, I kind of called that would be a raid, or I said it would be a raider patch. Maybe this counts as me sort of calling the Emerald Dream anyway. But we go in there, fight Xavius, should be pretty cool. It seems like the idea of us going through this world tree and crossing into the dream and doing all that will be extremely cool from a visual perspective as well. Plus, this is something that fans have wanted to see for a long time, so I am very much all for seeing the Emerald Nightmare. Now, Suramar Palace is essentially this giant, palace of these night elves who basically have aligned themselves with the Legion. They've got something there called a Nightwell, which I'm assuming is some sort of font of immense power, and Gul'dan is going to be there, seemingly as the final boss. Apparently, we can't run away. And when Ian Hazzikostas was talking about this, he was sort of joking about, oh yeah, I mean, there's no green, there's no orcs, there's no spikes. It's very different. It's a Royal Elven sort of style thing with loads of magic imbued into it to have it be really fantastical. So it seems like almost a Night Elf take on Silvermoon City, in a way, from a visual perspective. And that's great, because Siege of Orgrimmar was orky spikeness. Highmaul was, it was ogre spikeness. Blackrock Foundry was similar color palette-wise to Siege of Orgrimmar, and it was also full of spikes, and Hellfire Citadel was just a green version of that. We have had very similar raids. We've had brilliant raids, though. They have been brilliant, but very similar in many ways, and it's great to see them really go and do something different here with the raid content. Visually, I am far more interested in this expansion overall, because looking at those zones, yeah, it's a Burning Legion invasion, but is it a green expansion? Is everything Fel green? No, it isn't Fel green. All these zones appear to be really different, and it seems like while the Legion is the big scary thing, we kind of do we do whatever we do in the Broken Shore, and then we sort of deal with this elf stuff. We deal with the very cool stuff, and we deal with the Nightmare. So it seems like there's a really nice amount of variation in there from a visual perspective. That's brilliant to see. Really happy about that. Next, let's talk about the honor changes. This is probably the final thing, other than my closing thoughts. So they said the gear shouldn't really be such a massive part of PvP. That's great. I think I agree. I think most of the PvPers agree. Definitely a very nice thing. Also, it directly goes against shit they said recently, but I suppose they couldn't really talk against themselves in some of those recent interviews. Basically, they're replacing the way that TBC and up to Warlords did honor gearing, where you would get honor, you get conquest, basically you get currency, you transfer it over to gear. Now you have a talent system, which essentially has got this built-in leveling system. So you start off at level 1 or 0, you end at level 50, and as you get more talents, you unlock, or more levels, you unlock more talents, until the point where you've unlocked everything. And it seems like your first bunch of talents you unlock extremely quickly. A bit like how Heroes in the Storm, where you have a full set of abilities for your hero, you just need to play it a bit to actually earn the choice for other abilities. That's definitely, I mean, it's the better way of doing it. It means that people will instantly get, or near instantly get access to most of the power they should need. So that's good. And then there's a prestige system on top of that, where you can essentially, well, prestige. Like in Call of Duty, you reset everything to 0, but you will begin to unlock cosmetic items, cosmetic weapons, like cosmetic version or different versions of your... They're not called relic weapons. I'm going to double check because I keep on missaying what they are. Yeah, your artifact weapons. You'll get a new skin for them. Via PvP, you'll get new mounts, all by doing this prestige system. What this means is that a lot of those cosmetic items are not going to be tied to rating. They're going to be tied to people continuing to do PvP content. Definitely good. However, there's one odd thing here. They didn't talk about any new PvP content. They talked about a new honor system. We don't know about new battlegrounds. We don't know about new arenas. And we do not know about a shared world thing. Like Trash Can, like Splash Ran, like Wintergrasp, like Tol Barad. We don't know if there will be one of those. And looking at the map, I don't think there will be. That's a bit sad. I mean, okay, here's the thing. They've done 3 of those so far. One of them was good. The other 2 were pretty shit. I think Ashran, because it was so integral, was even worse than Tol Barad. Like, Tol Barad, it was rubbish. No one did it, but no one gave a shit because it didn't really matter that much. Whereas for the PvPers, they were forced into Ashran. You needed that stuff. So maybe they're just going to take a break from that. And honestly, yeah, this is probably the time to take a break from doing a system like that, because maybe people are by default going to be not very much into it, perhaps. So yeah, there's that going on. A bit sad about Ashran, but hey, maybe we'll get something like that in the future. And if we do, I would love it if it was a big epic siege, because they're just such a key part of fantasy as far as I'm concerned. They're really, really cool. And that's basically it for my overall impressions. As you can probably tell, I really like the idea of everything here. And I really like the intention of the artifact system and the order system. I just think they need to be super careful with the artifacts. I hope they don't, I hope they don't really take away from the feeling of progression that comes with getting new weapons, because that is something that's pretty cool. However, if they really make those artifacts feel great, maybe they'll work. Again, time will tell. As for the orders, I hope they're a thing in the side. I hope they don't matter. Certainly, I don't want them to have any gear whatsoever. I don't want them to matter a great deal, but I want them to be something that you can really work on a sort of a personal capacity. Demon Hunters are great. I'm very worried about the amount of new zones. If it's completely linear, I will be a sad panda. That would appear to be the case. So maybe I'm a sad panda when it comes to that leveling experience. Maybe I'll enjoy it in 1 or 2 characters, and I will not be happy afterwards. Of course, very hard to tell at this stage. I'm also curious to see how much it actually takes to level up your artifact weapon at max level, because if you're swapping to another spec, that could be seen as a barrier to that. So it will be very interesting to see how they handle that. Maybe you can transfer progress from one weapon to another when you switch specs, because each spec will have a different weapon. Again, we do not know. Maybe they'll reveal it very soon. Maybe we'll have to wait to BlizzCon. We don't know. That's all I can really say about it, but it is a concern. Now, another thing. Queen Ashara, we have had her mentioned a few times. She's not in this raid tier, though. The final boss of this raid tier appears to be Gul'dan, at least so it would seem at this stage. Are we going to kill Ashara? Is she going to be the end boss? Or is Ashara going to be kept on to the next expansion? I could definitely see that happening. And another big topic here is, how long is this expansion going to last? We've got 9 dungeons, and we've got 5 zones. That sounds like something that could maybe last for a year, if it was a 2 raid tier expansion that was quite literally a year long, basically as if this expansion, like Legion, came out in November 11th, which is the date that Warlords came out. We will have to see about that year-long expansion stuff. I think you all know my belief, and that is that 3 is better, and that 3 basically ends up being more value to consumers, and it means it's not really that churny. You know, it's like you get loads of subscribers at the start, you lose half of them, but it's fine. A new expansion comes out that next year, and you churn them. I don't think that's a good business model. Again, though, we'll have to see. We don't know how long this will actually be. And it seems like Warlords of Draenor was planned to be 3 raid tiers, and then it was cut. Because, you know, I remember someone from Blizzard talking about Shatrath being a raid, and Farallon. That stuff never happened. So maybe that was just a misstep, and this expansion will contain, you know, like basically will be a full expansion. Of course, as you are probably aware, I think that Warlords of Draenor was abandoned very early in terms of the actual development. From what I've heard, they had like most of Tanaan finished pretty early on in 2015, and essentially, like at that stage, it was quite literally everyone is working on the other expansion. And even before that, it would seem that 6.2 was made by a skeleton crew at the get-go, and bar the raid, obviously. And the people really have been working a lot on this expansion, and it is that reason that I think that perhaps this expansion won't have as much cut stuff. I would be surprised if not all of the new systems that we heard today made it in. If there was anything cut, basically, I would be very surprised. Because they are going to a beta so quickly. That's the other big topic here. When's this damn thing going to come out? I'll probably think about that and do a video on it and really try to puzzle through it, but the beta is probably going to be after BlizzCon, which means maybe it's the day after BlizzCon or something, like, say, Warlords came out just after BlizzCon, so we have our beta test beginning, say, 12th of November, maybe it lasts for 2 months, okay, no, let's just say 3 months, or 4, whatever, but the Broken Shore experience comes into the game maybe 2 months before the expansion launches, meaning that there's a sort of a pretty rapid pace for this expansion coming out, and we'll actually get a little bit of something to bridge the gap to make that feel shorter and be less of a sting. Yeah, that's most of my thoughts on this expansion. Overall, I am very interested. I think it is a conceptual return to form, hopefully. It looks great on paper. If they deliver what they say they deliver, then it is certainly going to bring in some new systems, some interesting things, some zones that appear to be really beautiful, some raids that no doubt will be great. It's going to have more dungeons, which is nice, and it's going to have more in the way of sort of class identity features, which again is really good, and hopefully what was maybe hinted at about them revisiting parts of the old world, maybe that will also play into something, and maybe the order system will give us class quests for each class. If that's the case, then I'm definitely very interested in this. Oh, and there's also the transmog revamp, which they didn't talk about, but it is on their website. Essentially, the way that works is you unlock a visual set. So basically, you get the, pauldrons of the dingus, and then you always have that available, kind of like in a transmog wardrobe or something like that. It seems to be similar to the Diablo 3 system, and frankly, I think it's a fantastic change, because it means that, as well as being a cosmetic thing, the transmog stuff, it can also be collection gameplay, because a lot of people will want to fill all the boxes and collect all the different visual sets. Good luck to them, that will take a very long time, but I suppose that is a way to drive some new gameplay. Well, I suppose it's some old gameplay, but still, it's a quality of life change that I think will be very good for that. Of course, final topic, or 2 other topics as well, professions and reputations. We don't know about reputation content, but I hope it's certainly a thing. That's really all I can say on that. And professions even, were basically destroyed in Warlords of Draenor. That is what I think. I really enjoyed doing professions in Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm. I didn't really bother with them much in MoP, but that's not really because of their state, it's just because I didn't bother with them. In Warlords of Draenor, I tried to really get into professions because I do enjoy that content and I enjoy the gold making, and I just found so much anti-fun in that system. So they really, I think, should revamp professions, give them depth again, and just properly allow there to be a system that people can engage in and really become a master at. It's hard to be a master of Draenor professions because they're so easy, and the same goes for many other things in Draenor. So hopefully a lot of those lessons have been learned. From everything that they've been saying, it seems like they have, so they're saying the right things, they're showing us the right things in terms of their slides and their PowerPoints, so the big question is, well, okay, bar the number of zones, but the big question is, will they pull it off? If so, consider me very excited, is, I think, my closing remarks on this. So, with all that said, and that probably 40-minute discussion, which I hope you enjoyed, or maybe it, got you thinking about something, what do you think about this expansion? What do you think the pros are? What do you think the cons are? And what I'm more interested in, actually, is the lore. So what do you think about the lore? Because it could be a really just ridiculous clusterfuck, or it could be really good, because there's lots of big characters, and there's lots of, I suppose, almost fan-favorite things anyway. We've got Illidan, we've got Dalaran, we've got the Burning Legion, we've got Ashara, we've got the Emerald Dream. This is all stuff that really gets the Warcraft people happy. So yeah, there you go. That's it for the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.